Okay, guys. So the next advanced compression technique I'm going to tell you about is something we call dynamic delay. And that's basically the concept of using a compressor that has a key input or a sidechain input to modify the level of the delay over time, saving us doing that in automation or sort of manually. The classic example is when you have a vocalist. You might want the delay to appear or bloom out of nowhere between the vocal lines, but have that delay duck down out of the way of the vocal when they are actually singing, so you don't get that kind of tripping over effect where the delay is kind of competing with the lead vocal. There are actually some hardware units that do dynamic delay all in one, and of course there are some plugins that do it as well. But what I'm going to show you here is the kind of manual, I guess the sort of traditional way of how you would do it so that you can actually understand the routing that's going on when we're setting up one of these dynamic delays. So it's a long one and the routing does get kind of complicated. So if you've got to watch it a couple of times, I would recommend you do that. And of course, definitely try it yourself because it's one of those ones that'll only really sink in when you've tried it yourself. So here we go. Okay, so here we have a backing track and a lead vocal. Let's just have a listen to those.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's always you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's always you.
Okay, so as you can hear and as you can see here as well, there are these little gaps between the vocal lines, and it's those moments that I'd like to fill up with our dynamic delay. The first step is to create a stereo auxiliary input, and this is going to be our delay return. So I'm going to rename that vocal delay, and because it is an effect return, I'll just disable the solo button on that track. And the next step is to create a send on our lead vocal that feeds that delay return. So I'm just using bus 9 and 10 here, and I'll rename the bus vocal del or vocal delay or something like that. And I'll just turn up the send to a random value. We'll need to change that later on anyway. On the delay return, I'm just inserting an instance of the stock Pro Tools Mod Delay 3 basic delay plugin. And just to save time, earlier I actually saved a preset here, Nick Dynamic Delay. You can see some of the settings here. I think the important thing is that it's a tempo synced delay, so I've chosen half notes for the time. 30% feedback, so we've got a few repeats, and I have taken a little bit of top end off the delay itself, and a little bit of modulation just for some interest. So let's have a listen to that vocal now.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's always you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's always you.
Okay, so you can hear the issue there is that the delay is getting in the way of the lead vocal. So the answer is dynamic delay. So let's insert directly after our delay plugin, we're going to insert a compressor. In this instance, it is AUD303 compressor limiter. And once again, I made a preset called Nick Dynamic Delay here. And let's just check out some of these parameters. So high ratio, quite aggressive compression, really slow release, and very fast attack. That will make sense in a second when you hear this. Now, very important, up in this key input, we need to select a bus. I've just chosen random bus 13. And then on my vocal track, I'm creating a send to that same bus, bus 13. And I'll turn that up to unity gain. And it's very important that up here in the sidechain section of the compressor, we have this little key turned on That means that our compressor is now being triggered by the sound of the vocal rather than the sound of the delay itself. Let's have a listen to that.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's slow bass, you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's slow bass, you.
So as you can see and hear there now, when the vocal is singing, the compressor is forcing the delay down, and when the vocalist is not singing, the delay is free to pop back up. I think we could make this a little bit more interesting sounding. I've just inserted an equalizer after our compressor on the delay return, and I'm just going to filter the sound of the delay a little bit because I find that dynamic delay sounds a little bit better if the delay itself is a little bit processed sounding, a little bit less close to the original vocal sound. So I've just done a high and low pass filter there. And then after that EQ, just for fun, I'm going to insert the lo-fi plugin, which is just a free Pro Tools stock plugin. And I'm just going to apply a tiny amount of saturation. A little bit goes a long way with this plugin. Just bring that sample rate down a little bit.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's slow bass, you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's slow bass, you.
That's just sort of made that delay a little bit more subliminal and pushed it into the background a little bit more. What we're going to try now is a similar process, but on our reverb return. This works especially well with a long reverb, so I'm cranking this right up to sort of 6 seconds. And this should be quite simple to set up because we've already set up a compressor for our delay. I'm just going to copy the compressor from the delay return to the reverb return. And I'm going to turn up our reverb send quite a lot. And I'm also going to send a little bit of the delay into the reverb just to sort of blend it all together.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's slow bass, you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's slow bass, you.
So as you can hear, the delay and reverb really rush in to fill up those spots between the vocal lines.
See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's slow bass, you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's slow bass, you. See your face late at night. Your head was laid next to mine. Close my eyes to ease my mind. It's slow bass, you. Feel the breath of summer days. Feel your heat melt away. Close my eyes to rest my mind. It's slow bass, you.